She looked at me with eyes that held the truth I wasn't ready to face. Her voice was calm, almost too calm, when she said, "If you have the courage, check his phone." My heart dropped. Because people don't say things like that unless they already know the answer. Unless they've seen something you haven't. Unless the truth is darker than the doubt you've been trying to silence. I held his phone in my shaking hands for a long time, feeling the weight of everything I didn't want to discover. My chest tightened, my breath became shallow, and every memory of him, every smile, every promise, every "I love you" suddenly felt fragile, breakable, wrong. She didn't tell me what I would find. She didn't have to. Her silence said everything. That moment was the line between the life I thought I had and the truth I was about to learn. And once I opened that phone, nothing, absolutely nothing, was ever the same again. I always believed that the worst kind of pain was the kind you expected, the kind you felt coming long before it arrived. But I was wrong. The worst pain is the one that walks into your life quietly, wearing a familiar smile, sleeping beside you every night, holding your hand every morning, pretending to love you while hiding the truth in a place as small and powerful as a phone. For months, I carried a discomfort I couldn't explain. It wasn't loud enough to call suspicion, but it was sharp enough to wake me at night. Sometimes he would turn his phone face down during dinner. Sometimes he would silence notifications when he thought I wasn't looking. Sometimes he would take his phone with him even when he walked 5 steps away. And sometimes, when he thought I had fallen asleep, the glow of his screen would gently flash against the wall. Yet every time my heart tried to warn me, my love silenced it. I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself everyone guards their phones sometimes. I told myself trust meant ignoring things that hurt. I told myself a lot of things just to avoid confronting the truth. And then, she said those words, "If you dare, check his phone." The words came from someone I didn't expect, someone who barely spoke to me. Someone who once smiled politely at us but never truly seemed comfortable around him. She was standing in front of me outside a cafe that morning, her voice soft, her eyes heavy with something I couldn't describe. Not pity, not anger. Something closer to warning. Something like sadness. She grabbed my hand gently, looked at me as if she was trying to pull me out of a dream, and repeated the sentence with a quiet seriousness that wrapped around my bones. "Check his phone. If you have the courage." And that was it. She didn't explain. She didn't elaborate. She didn't stay. She just walked away, leaving me with a storm I wasn't ready to face. That whole day, my mind didn't stop spinning. I replayed her voice over and over again, trying to understand what she meant. Was he cheating? Was he lying? Was there another version of him I didn't know? The fear sat in my stomach like ice, spreading slowly until my hands trembled. When he came home that night, everything felt different. He smiled the same smile. He kissed me the same way. He talked about his day as if the world was normal. But something in his eyes flickered, something I had never noticed before. A kind of alertness, a kind of caution, a kind of guilt that hides behind kindness. I told myself to wait, to breathe, to gather the truth before confronting it. But the truth had already begun to gather itself. Later that night, he fell asleep beside me, his arm loosely around my waist, his breathing slow and steady. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the ceiling fan. The moonlight fell across the bed in a thin blue line, barely touching the edge of his phone lying on the nightstand. That phone looked like a doorway to answers I wasn't sure I wanted. For almost an hour, I stared at it, got my heart raced in my chest, beating so loudly I was convinced it might wake him. My palms were sweating. My breath caught in my throat every few seconds. I wasn't afraid of the truth. I was afraid of how much it would change me. I slowly reached toward the phone. My hand shook uncontrollably. The moment my fingers touched the cold surface of the screen, I froze. It felt like I had touched a secret, something forbidden, something alive. I whispered to myself, if there's nothing, I'll finally be at peace. But that was a lie. Because deep down, I already knew there was something. When I picked up the phone, it unlocked without a password. That was the first sign, not of innocence, but of confidence. Only people who think they're smarter than your suspicion leave their phone unprotected. Only people who believe you will never give you access. Only people who hide lies in places you won't think to check believe a password isn't necessary. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely keep the screen steady. I opened the Messages app. Hundreds of chats. Some muted, some pinned, some marked with stars, some archived. Names I didn't recognize. Numbers without photos. Photos with no names. Notifications turned off. My chest tightened. The air around me disappeared. My fingers moved slowly, afraid to open anything, afraid not to. I tapped on one conversation. The first message shattered me. A photo of him. A photo he told me he took for me. A photo he sent me with the words only for you, but it wasn't only for me. It was sent to her first. And then another message. I wish she wasn't home. I miss you. The room spun. My throat burned. My eyes blared. I opened another chat. Good morning, beautiful. I couldn't sleep last night thinking about you. He told me that same sentence, word for word. Just hours ago, I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. Different women. Different lies, different versions of him, different stories he crafted. Like a man living multiple lives at once. Each message was a dagger. Each photo was a betrayal. Each I love you was a recycled sentence. He wasn't just cheating, he was performing. Every emotion he ever showed me suddenly felt borrowed. Every moment felt manipulated. Every memory we shared felt contaminated. I couldn't breathe. My chest hurt so deeply it felt physical. I felt dizzy, sick, lost. I felt like the room was collapsing around. Emmy. There was no single betrayal in that phone. There were hundreds, and the worst part wasn't the messages. It wasn't the calls. It wasn't the pictures. It was the realization that he lived an entire life behind a screen, one where I didn't exist. I sat there frozen, holding his phone like it was a bomb that had already exploded inside my heart. Tears blurred my vision. My hands shook uncontrollably. My breath came out in sharp, painful gasps, and as I stared at the screen, one final thought hit me so hard I almost dropped the phone. She didn't say check his phone to expose him. She said it to save me, because she already knew the truth I had been too afraid to face. And now, I couldn't unsee it anymore. I sat there with his phone in my hands long after the tears dried on my face. The messages kept replaying in my mind like a series of wounds I couldn't close. Every woman he talked to had a different version of him. To one, he was gentle. To another, mysterious. To another, flirtatious. To another, broken. He became whatever each woman needed, whatever each woman wanted, whatever would make him feel wanted in return. And because he could become anyone, I realized he was never truly mine. I wiped my face with trembling hands and quietly placed his phone back on the nightstand. My body felt numb, heavy, like all the energy inside me had drained out in a single breath. The room was silent except for his soft breathing, peaceful and steady, as if he hadn't shattered my world just minutes ago. For a moment, I stared at him while he slept. How do you look at someone who destroyed you and still looks like the person you once loved? I lay back down beside him, but sleep didn't dare come near me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those messages. Every lie, every secret, every piece of him he had given to someone else. The pain didn't come in waves. It came like a storm, continuous, merciless, swallowing everything in its path. Around sunrise, he stretched, yawned softly, and turned toward me. He smiled, the same smile he always gave me in the morning. A smile I once believed in. A smile I once loved. But now it looked unfamiliar, wrong, fake, like something he practiced in the mirror. "Good morning," he whispered, kissing my forehead. The moment his lips touched my skin, my body recoiled before my mind could stop it. I pulled away slightly, hoping he wouldn't notice, but he did. His eyes narrowed for a second, searching my face. "You okay?" he asked gently. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to throw the phone at him and watch his face crumble. But instead, I said nothing. Because I knew anger wasn't enough. Anger wouldn't undo the messages. Anger wouldn't erase the lies. Anger wouldn't turn him into the man I believed he was. I got out of bed quietly, avoiding his gaze. My voice felt trapped somewhere between my chest and my throat. He called my name softly, as if trying to pull me back into the world where I still loved him. But that world no longer existed. I walked to the bathroom and locked the door. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, I didn't recognize the woman staring back. She looked broken, hollow, betrayed. Her eyes held a truth she hadn't wanted to see. Her lips trembled with the weight of everything she didn't know how to say. How could someone who loved me do this? How could someone who called me his future invite so many others into our present? How could someone who held my heart treat it like it was disposable? I splashed cold water on my face, hoping it would bring me back to myself. But the woman in the mirror still looked shattered. When I came out, he was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his phone casually. My chest tightened. He was looking at the same device that had destroyed me just hours ago. The same device that held pieces of women he pretended didn't exist. The same device he used to live two lives. He looked up and smiled again, unaware that the world he built on lies was about to crumble. We spent the morning in silence. He made coffee. I didn't touch mine. He tried to talk about work. I barely heard him. He asked if I wanted to go out later. I nodded even though my soul screamed. I was watching him, observing him, studying him the way he had studied all those women. I paid attention to every micro-expression, every awkward pause, every lie disguised as routine. It was strange how clear everything became once the illusion broke. He checked his phone constantly, not in the obvious way cheaters do. He was subtle, experienced, skilled in the art of deception. He'd unlock it briefly, glance, then lock it just as quickly. Like a magician performing tricks he thought I'd never notice. And then, something happened that made everything even worse. A notification popped up, a name I recognized, not one of the women from the messages. He reacted barely. Just a slight tension in his fingers, a small shift in his posture. But I caught it. I saw the guilt flash across his face like a shadow, before he quickly turned the screen away. My heart dropped again. He still didn't know I knew. That was the part that broke me the most. He didn't seem like a man afraid of being caught. He seemed like a man confident he never would be. That meant this wasn't a mistake. This was a pattern. This was routine. This was who he was. The truth hit me hard. She didn't warn me because she hated him. She warned me because she knew what he was capable of. And I was finally living the nightmare she saw long before I did. Later that evening, I sat on the couch pretending to scroll through my phone while he cooked dinner. He hummed softly, casually, as if nothing was wrong. As if our world wasn't already falling apart. As if he hadn't betrayed me in ways that felt almost surgical. While he was chopping vegetables, his phone lit up again. Another message. Another woman. Another lie. And that's when everything inside me snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. Pure, painful clarity. I finally understood something I should have realized long ago. He didn't cheat because he was unhappy. He cheated because he enjoyed the attention. Because he needed validation like oxygen. Because one heart was never enough for someone who didn't have a heart of his own. He was addicted to being wanted, addicted to being admired, addicted to being desirable, and I was just one of many sources, feeding his emptiness. I took a deep breath and walked toward him. My legs felt weak, but my voice, when it finally came, felt stronger than it had in months. "We need to talk," I said. He froze, not dramatically, not guilty, but with calculated calmness. "About what?" he asked, pretending confusion. I had spent the whole day preparing for this moment. But when I really looked at him, I realized something terrifying. I was about to confront a man who had perfected the art of lying, and I wasn't sure I was ready for the truth he would try to twist next. He stared at me with a calmness that no innocent man has. A calmness that felt rehearsed, polished, practiced. A calmness that belonged to someone who had lied so many times he no longer feared the consequences. His eyes didn't widen in shock. His face didn't twist in guilt. He simply blinked once, as if preparing the right expression, the right tone, the right lie. "What do you want to talk about?" he asked again, voice steady. My heart sank. Not because I expected a confession, but because even in the moment of confrontation, he was choosing performance over honesty. I took a deep breath, feeling my ribs tighten around my lungs, and whispered, "Your phone." That was the first time his mask slipped. Not fully, just enough to reveal a flicker of panic behind his eyes. But he recovered instantly, forcing a soft laugh. "My phone." Why, the denial was almost insulting. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I simply held his gaze with a stillness I knew he wasn't expecting. He opened his mouth again, likely ready to charm, distract, or manipulate. But the silence between us swallowed every excuse he tried to form. Finally, I said it. I saw everything. His breath hitched just slightly. His jaw clenched, barely noticeable. And then he did the very thing that told me everything I needed to know. He didn't ask what I saw. He didn't ask why I looked. He didn't ask if I misunderstood. He only whispered, "Who told you?" That sentence was the confession he never meant to give. Not "it's not what you think," not "you're wrong," not "please listen," just "who told you?" He wasn't sad that he hurt me. He was scared that his secret got out. I felt something inside me break, not my heart, not my trust, but the illusion I had held onto for far too long. The illusion that deep down he cared. That deep down he loved me. That deep down there was a version of him that was real. There were messages, I said quietly. Photos, conversations, women. He ran his hands through his hair, pacing slightly, muttering curses under his breath. Not at himself, not at his choices, but at the fact that he was exposed. Finally, he turned to me, eyes filled with a hollow kind of desperation. "Listen." It didn't mean anything. That sentence was the death of any love I had left. Because only people who never loved you think betrayal means nothing. My voice cracked as I asked, "How many?" He shrugged, as if I had asked him how many movies he watched this month. As if the number didn't matter. As if the truth didn't deserve a shape. I don't know, he said. A few, maybe more. They were just for fun, just for fun. Months of lies, months of duplicity, months of deception. Just for fun. I felt my legs weaken. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. My nails dug into the wood as I whispered, "Was I fun too?" He looked up sharply, confusion twisting his expression as if he couldn't understand why I was hurt. As if he believed I should have expected this. As if fidelity was something only fools demanded. "You're being dramatic," he said. The avalanche hit then. I laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because the pain had finally gone past breaking and into numbness. He watched me with irritation, not guilt. His arms crossed. His jaw tightened. His patience knitting like I was the one disrupting his peace. When my laughter faded, I looked at him and felt. Nothing. Not love. Not anger. Not hope. Just emptiness. Why? I asked softly. And for the first time that night, he told the truth. Not because he wanted to, but because he didn't have the energy to lie anymore. I like attention. I like knowing people want me. I nodded slowly. "What about me?" He paused, then sighed. "You were safe. You were steady. You made me feel calm. But I needed more." There it was. The truth behind the betrayal. The truth behind the lies. The truth behind the phone full of secrets. He didn't cheat because he lacked love. He cheated because he lacked character. I walked past him, my hands trembling, my throat burning, my heart thundering in my chest. I picked up his phone and placed it gently in his hand. "This," I said, "is the only relationship you were faithful to." He opened his mouth, probably to apologize or manipulate or justify. But I raised a hand to stop him. "I don't need reasons," I said. "I don't need excuses. I don't need promises. I don't need anything from you anymore." He stepped toward me, eyes wide now, panic real this time. "Wait, where are you going?" "Somewhere," I whispered, "where your lies can't follow." He grabbed my arm suddenly tightly, but not aggressively, more desperately. His voice cracked as he said, "Don't leave, please. I'll change. I'll fix this. I'll delete everything. I'll focus on you." I slowly pulled my arm out of his grip. "If you needed to lose me to change," I said, "you were never mine to begin with." His face fell. He looked lost, small, scared. The same man who lied effortlessly, who juggled multiple lives, who made betrayal look easy. He suddenly looked like a child caught in his own trap. "I love you," he whispered. I shook my head. "No, you crave me. That's not love. You just can't stand the idea of losing someone who made you feel important." He took a step toward me, tears filling his eyes now. But even his tears felt like performance, like sadness he rehearsed from movies, like emotions he didn't fully understand. "I'm begging you," he said. I took a breath that tasted like freedom and pain at the same time. "You didn't just cheat on me," I said softly. "You cheated on the version of me that trusted you." And then I walked away. My legs felt heavy at first, then lighter with every step. When I reached the door, I paused, not for him, not for the past, but for myself. I whispered, "Thank you," though I wasn't sure why. Maybe because his betrayal freed me. Maybe because the truth saved me. Maybe because I finally understood something essential. Love doesn't require you to be brave. Leaving does. As I stepped outside, the cold air hit my face. It felt like the world had shifted into a new shape, painful, raw, honest. I breathed in deeply, letting the truth settle in my chest. She warned me. She tried to save me. And now I was saving myself. When I looked back one last time, I didn't see the man I loved. I saw the man he really was, a man who didn't deserve the depth of the love I had given him. The door closed behind me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the kind of peace that only comes after you finally stop defending someone who was destroying you in silence.